the new Full Funnel Live episode, which is co-hosted by two co-founders of FullFunnel.io. And thanks a lot for joining us, guys. As always, you submitted fantastic questions. Today we have a special topic, how to use intent data in the account-based marketing programs. I assume that everybody knows, everybody talks about intent data, but the practical question is how to actually use it, right? Because data without clear processes means nothing. So instead of having a generic discussion, what is intent data, etc., we want to show you practical examples. I know, guys, you love it. So we actually want to focus on two practical aspects. Number one, how to use intent data for account list building, and then showing you how to match the insights that you are collecting from intent data with marketing and sales playbooks. That being said, let us know, please, where you guys all tuning in. Share in the chat, please, your city and country. And we are broadcasting again from sunny and finally very warm Valencia, Spain.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I really think this is an important topic because, like Andrei said, so many people talk about intent data, but the problem is that if you're doing what everybody else is doing, everybody has access to the same data in a lot of cases. So if all you're doing is the same as everybody else, it's not going to make any difference. So this is why we're so excited to share with you concrete examples of how you can get much more out of it. And we promise some screen sharing, some concrete real case studies being done live.
And I see Deepak, I see Jessica. Hi, guys. Good to see you, all of you. Zelimir, good to see you again. Long time. Hello from Croatia. Hope it's as well sunny and warm as here in Spain. One thing that we want to show you first is account list building process. We'll use our software. It's called Dealfront, and probably if you guys are listening to our podcast, you know that we've been partnering with Dealfront for a long time, and it became our go-to-market solution, especially when it comes to plan, orchestrate, and execute account-based marketing programs. So you can see how to use Dealfront in action. If you use another software, at least you'll see the processes, right, that you could replicate. And quick question to you, by the way, do you guys have any solution for intent data? Share with us in the chat. Dealfront, Demandbase, 6sense, whatever comes, Albacross. Share with us in the chat if you have any solution. And while you are typing, let's start with the first topic.
All right. So let's get this sharing. And the first topic is about how do we use intent data for account list building. And what you see here is essentially a snapshot of our ideal customer profile. We have run recently an episode on how to create an ideal customer profile, so we are not going to spend any time talking about it. But the reason that we are sharing this is because this is the basis that we are going to use in order to build the account list. Why? Because we want to select the accounts that fit our ICP profile. And if you have attended or listened to our other episode, you will remember that we talk often about qualification and disqualification criteria, concrete criteria that you can use to actually select and prioritize accounts that you should consider. So that was the first insight that I think we wanted to share. And then another one has to do with the three lists. Do you want to jump into that, Andrei?
Yeah, one of the most important things is distinguish different accounts by the vendor awareness, right? Traditionally, in account-based marketing, we know that approach: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? For tier 1, we do fully personalized programs. Tier 2, it's usually job role-based programs. And then tier 3, let's call it like somebody calls it programmatic ABM. I feel that it's just a bad way of not doing appropriate demand generation and calling it programmatic ABM. But when it comes to ABM planning, we have a different concept for these lists, right? We distinguish 3 lists: cluster, ideal customer profile, cluster, ICP, future pipeline, and active focus. And here is the difference between lists, right? Cluster, ICP. These are companies that fit your ideal customer profile. You saw the screenshot that Vlad just shared a minute ago. And these accounts fit our ICP, but there is no vendor awareness, and we don't know the need or the challenge of these accounts, right? So we can't realistically sell to them. We can just make a generic pitch or run generic ads, right? Next, we have future pipeline. These accounts are aware of you, but we still don't know their challenge or need. So there is a high likelihood that they would reply, they would engage with us, but we can't create personalized offer, which is the essence of account-based marketing. And lastly, active focus. These are the companies that know you, so there is a certain level of vendor awareness. We know the challenge or the need of these accounts, right? And there is a strong product need evidence plus a high revenue potential. So these are tier 1 and tier 2 accounts. Okay, so this is the concept, and let us know if that's clear. Type plus, please, in the chat, because next we are going to show you several examples and how we build these lists based on the intent data. So let's open Dealfront, as I mentioned. And by the way, guys, with Dealfront, what we love about the product is that you can literally use it for like you can have a free trial. You don't need to commit to costly annual contracts, right? Even to see how the product works. So feel free to check it. Vlad dropped a link in the chat. And let's work live, right, on these examples. So in Dealfront, you can see the, like they call it, custom feeds, right? We created a few custom feeds, so you can see active focus, right? The list that we just discussed. Then we have cluster ICP engaged. Then we have future pipeline, right? And like we have future pipeline consultant, for example. So this is basically the concept. And in a second, we are going to describe you how that works. So I think just for a second, let's come back to the ideal customer profile while I will be passing microphone to you, Vlad. And so the guys can see this, right? So this is the account segmentation criteria, ideal customer profile, okay? Now, let's come back to the product, to Dealfront, right? So we created these filters, right? So there is a quality, and this is an interesting metric in Dealfront, but basically what quality means is the high level of engagement, right? It's visit time and also the quality of the database. So how many enriched contacts do they have? And then basically we put the geographical criteria. You see our target countries and employee count at least 51, right? So we can segment companies by firmographics and by, let's say, starting with the accounts from tier 3. Now, all these accounts should be verified, right? So we need to define where these accounts should go. So let's look at these accounts and just share with the guys a few examples.
Absolutely. So basically what we are looking here at, and we can start from the first one, right? Kurita Group. What we are looking at is trying to identify whether this account matches these criteria, right? We do have a filter, so we know that they're potentially from the right geography. We know that they're the right size, so we see it's 500 to 1,000 employees, which in our case would be classified as tier 1.
And we can assign tag immediately.
And say this is tier 1. Where did it go? If it wasn't there, it's now here. And what we want to check out is also what is the type of product that they sell. So these are B2B services, and potentially they could as well be interesting for us, although we do focus on B2B SaaS companies. So this could potentially be qualified or not. And then the next set of data that we are going to look at is we are going to look at the level of engagement. So we see one person from Barcelona that was checking quite a lot of pages, but what I actually can read from this is that I have spent some time on our consulting page, but really that what they seem to have been most interested in was our account-based marketing playbook, which is our course. So if we are looking to prospect and try to sell consulting services, potentially I would not consider this to be an account that I would focus on, right?
There is an interesting thing. I would just add a few insights, right? We see that they came from Substack, right? So basically there is one person that already subscribed to our newsletter, and later we'll show you another example, but just not to spend a lot of time here. So there is a certain level, we can assume there is a certain level of relationship, but what we can do as well, I won't log into Sales Navigator, but for you guys to I would highly recommend to check in Sales Navigator if in this account you have any connections with anybody from your team, right? Maybe you have connections with other sales reps, etc. So if I'll go to this company, there is no first-degree connections, right? So there is
in this case, because they are subscribed to Substack, I will go and check out who is the person. I would check out their profile and make sure that, let's say,
the profile is correct.
In other words, let's go back to our account ICP. What we want to see is whether they match our buying committee.
Correct.
In other words, okay. So this is how we would evaluate, for example, this company. Maybe if you
assuming this what we were sharing, right? Oh, just a second, why we have an issue with Notion. Okay, here we go, right? Assuming this concept of cluster ICP and future pipeline, right? That account should belong to future pipeline. Why? And this is how we assign the tags here, right? We have this tag future pipeline and add to list. So Vlad account wasn't updated, but we have the list of future pipeline. Okay. I needed to log in from mine. The key point, why? Because there is a certain level of vendor awareness, and basically we have some contact that we can check. Potentially Vlad is not connected to that person, but I could be connected, right? And that's a certain level of relationship.
And another thing that I see actually right now is that there were 2 people viewing the website, and it seems like the person number 2 has sent the consulting page, which is our kind of product page.
But that's exactly what you are saying. So you see, guys. So the first person shared information about us in the corporate Microsoft Teams, right? Dark social in action. Mm-hmm. So basically, that's a good sign.
Not so dark anymore, thanks to Dealfront, right?
Okay, into light social. Let's put it like this. Okay, so our page, Full Funnel Consulting, was shared across buying committee members, and that means that there is a certain level, right? So we need to prioritize that account. But here is the point. Again, coming back to our definition, we don't know what challenge this company has. We can assume, but I mean, marketing based on assumption is like playing the lottery, right? So for us, and that's exactly the point, right? For us, the next step with future pipeline, and if you guys didn't watch that episode, let us quickly show the, if you can copy this one and share in the chat. We explain on Substack on Substack how to engage with these different lists, right? Our goal would be validating the need of that account. Now let's move to the active focus list. And the active focus list, we have accounts with a certain level of engagement, but also, for example, there are companies that are as well basically checking consulting, and we have some level of relationship, right? And also with these companies, due to a certain engagement, we know that these companies has a need that we can help as a full funnel, right? We can help them with certain challenges, but on general level, we can help them to launch an effective account-based marketing program. So that's the essence here. And what we love as well about DealFront is that you can see engagement from all open deals, deals that are in your CRM, so you can connect HubSpot or basically Salesforce, or if I'm correct, Pipedrive as well. And then you can basically see the engagement, right, and get real-time insights about what's happening in these accounts and plan the next steps. Now, when it comes to active focus, the goal, and again, I'm coming back to our lists, right? The goal is to generate sales opportunities. So for us, for full funnel, this would be the accounts that we want to focus on, right? These are the accounts that will be working proactively on generating sales opportunities with these accounts, right? This is where I would put all of our efforts. There is a decent revenue potential. There is a level of relationship. We have connections with the buying committee members. Then there is a certain level of vendor awareness and strong buying signals, okay? So, and finally, again, coming back to the cluster ICP, we also call it as, you see, cluster ICP engaged. So these companies, they should be qualified, right? So some of them, I mean, and together is like we always recommend for marketing and sales, having you either have a responsible person who goes through that process, or if you don't have a responsible person for intent data, then you need to plan weekly pipeline review meetings where all together you'll go through these accounts and make the decisions. Okay, this account, like, okay, tier 1 future pipeline, what we are going to do next, right? And then basically you need, here you see the examples of the different activities that could be done for that list. Obviously, this is not a silver bullet. We're not saying that this is exactly what you should be doing. This should be a joint agreement between marketing and sales, right? You should have playbooks. Okay, this is what we are going to do next with these specific accounts. And why we are doing this? And why we wanted to show you guys that process? Because there is a huge myth in ABM world that ABM lists are static, right? So you pick up accounts, tier 1, tier 2, or whatever, and what is driving me nuts when companies pick up, you know, the biggest banks in North America, Fortune 500 companies. Why? Right? There is no reason with this. So, and then they try to do like something for these accounts for months, not getting any results, and then shutting down the program. The key point here is that ABM lists are dynamic. And the goal, and this is what we talk with Vladimir a lot, account velocity, right? The goal is to move accounts as fast as possible from one list to another, because opportunities are actually created from active focus list. This is where the teams should spend 80% of their time, right? This is the hottest accounts they need to focus on. And so this is the concept. Let us know, guys, if the process of account selection based on intent data was clear. And basically, I think that gave way more clarity on the concept of the lists. Type plus, or feel free to ask any questions. And maybe let's pick up this one, Vlad.
Yeah, Ignash asking, this seems to be the first part intent data. Does that mean that DealFront Pixel has to be available on your website, on your .com? He says, yes, correct. So we really like to look at first-party intent data, which is to say our own, which is to say that these are the companies that have visited our website or have engaged with us via, let's say, an event like this, webinar, are engaging with us on LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. So these would be different examples of sources of the first data, party type. And I think we also have other keywords or that we can see here in Dealfront. Is that also included?
The account enrichment, you mean? We can basically. That was the next step that I wanted to share, because you guys asked us a lot about what to do with the insights, right? And we wanted to show you a few examples. So, for example, like how the play. I think what is really broken, and then we can proceed to the insights that you asked about. Like, I think what is really broken is companies look at this intent. They don't have these filters, of course. In most cases, they have this one, like all companies that are visiting your website, right? And imagine if marketing is in charge of this. What's happening next? They send a list of these accounts, right, with unknown buyers, because you don't know who actually visited your website, to sales and say, hey, here is the list. 361 companies engaged with us, like in the recent almost 1 month.
Yeah.
Go and chase them.
Or add them to generic ads that are not personalized to these companies, nor to segments, clusters, etc. And this is exactly what we wanted to share with you, is how can we use this data, whether it's come from intent data or other insights that we collect about those accounts, to personalize our marketing approach or sales outreach approach. So we've prepared several examples that we can share with you.
So let's start with the first one. Let's say you have OpenDeal in your CRM, and this is what we love a lot in Dealfront about this integration with HubSpot. You see the accounts that are already in your pipeline, and whenever they visit your website, you immediately get the engagement. Plus, there is one more cool feature, the social signal. So we can show you. That's another another layer of intent data. This is not the first party, but third party. Let's say they are hiring for specific roles, etc. But let's say you see the insights, the account coming back, right? And this opportunity in your pipeline. Just simple example, we have this, for example, we saw that engagement, we saw the activity comes from the United States while we are engaging with the EMEA team, right? And then the message could be, hey, how are you? Any updates for me? I saw a lot of activities from your United States team on our website. Is it because you share it with them, right? Nice way to follow up and get the insights, because if she didn't share, then it's now I become curious, like, how did they know about us, right? If she shared it, it means that there is some internal buying process that I'm not aware of, and I would love ideally influence it, right? In some way. There is another cool example that Vlad could explain.
Absolutely. So in this case, I already had a conversation with this gentleman called Brian, and I started to understand what their challenges are. And meanwhile, I learned that, thanks to Dealfront, we learned that there were some other colleagues of his, and specifically this gentleman called Thomas, who started engaging with our website. So this was a trigger for me to reach out. So we had an initial conversation where I learned about their challenges. We were kind of waiting to see, the dreaded wait after the initial conversations and the proposal. But this was a great trigger for me to reach out to them. And the reason why I just selected this message was to show you just how you can use these insights to personalize your outreach. So in this case, for them, I remember that was very important to. They're a specific kind of bank, and they are losing market share to digital banking solutions. So I was kind of reminding them of that pain and their goals, right? So I was basically looking at what were the challenges, what were their goals, and how we can help them. And in this case, I shared some information that I prepared for them to help them, basically show them how we might be able to help them.
And what is really important here, if we'll come back to our point, right? We wanted to, again, we just mentioned these guys with you, that we want to focus only on two layers, right? Account list building and matching call to action with the collected insights. again, I would love to emphasize on the most important thing, right? ABM lists are not dynamic. Are not static. They are dynamic. And every single week, marketing and sales should sit down together, review the insights, cross-share the conversations or the insights they were able to collect through account research, all the interactions and engagement. And then based on this, prioritize next call to action, not just saying, hey, you visited my website, let's book a call again, right? Or if like that's a known account, hey, I saw you visited my website, let's have a call, right? So that doesn't work. Now, let's look at another account. So this is active focus, right? We have this account. There is a certain level of engagement. Again, keep in mind what active focus means, right? So there is a level of relationship, there is vendor awareness, etc. And then this is way more straightforward action and message. But why we are doing this? Because we already had a call with a certain person from that organization, right? So, and I see a repetitive engagement, right? I assume that, and I know that in terms of, let's say, buying committee structure, I had a call before with the champion, right? So now this is the decision maker. And then I'm asking a way more straightforward question. Maybe champion, there were multiple discussions, and I assume knowing the history of our interactions with our clients, right, that basically decision maker wanted to double check maybe the references or case studies, right, and just make sure it's not the price in question, but it's just like making sure that we are the right fit, right? So in this case, it's way more straightforward. Here is another question that it's a little bit old one, but it's fantastic because it worked really well, and we always love to share this.
Yeah, this was another prospect that I was in contact, I think something like 6 months before this message. We have been I was building a relationship with them, and I discovered, like, remember, this is active focus, which means we were aware of the product need. There was an existing relationship, vendor awareness, etc. And what happened is that I knew that they were very interested in starting an ABM program, but they didn't have resources. They didn't have a dedicated resource, and they were hiring, right? And I actually saw somebody come on the website, come on the consulting page, and I saw that it seemed like they started to fill out the form even. And I just reached out to my contact, who was the decision maker, saying, hey, we saw somebody come on the consulting page, start filling out the form, but didn't finish. You know that you can always reach out to me. I had a good relationship with that person, with the decision maker, if you have any questions. And that was exactly what he suggested. Like, hope all is well, spotted. That was our new marketer, Laura, who has joined us. So basically, he suggested that we connect directly, which is what happened, and we ended up with the deal some months later.
Okay, so let's move forward. Let us show you another example, right? I will click here, deal front. Okay, so we have this company, right, Atea. So there is some level of vendor awareness, not a huge engagement, but I would explain in a second why did I assign tag future pipeline. Because again, I saw that the person came from Substack. And then what happened next? I mean, we host our newsletter on Substack, and basically it became our mini blog. And by the way, quick question. I know that there are a few people here that are subscribed to Substack. Let us know in the chat if you are subscribed to our Substack. Just write yes or subscribed. Would love to see how many of you are subscribed. But just to give you an idea how marketing and sales could prioritize these accounts, right? So we know the source here. So the next step is basically we go to Substack and we search for the domain, right? And we can immediately find the person who is subscribed to our Substack, right? And we can, obviously, we can just open any platform, will give you these insights, right? We can open this and see the activities with what content this person engaged. And then basically the next step would be literally following up and saying, hey, thanks for actively engaging with our content on Substack. How do you like the platform and content? Was wondering if our content helped with ABM marketing and sales. Is it something that you're working on with your marketing peers at Atea? And why I'm asking that question? Again, coming back to the idea of our lists, right? If we don't know the challenge of these accounts, we can't pitch to them, right? So the first goal is to validate the challenge, right? If they are having any challenge. Oh, Zelimir is subscribed. Nice. No surprises. We've been connected for years. Jennifer, yes. Cool. So we have a few subscribers. Would love to have more, of course. Okay, just kidding. Let's come back to our example, right? This is exactly the point. So we define the right player and we start the conversation. And in this case, we know that he, even in the buying committee, he could be influencer. He is not his role. In his role, he is not even the champion. So he can't basically champion in our solution. So first of all, I would love to validate, right, if they if there is anything happens in terms of account-based marketing, because if that's not the case and it's just out of curiosity because that person wants to upskill himself, right? For me, there is no sense to proceed with the conversation. I would switch it either to courses or to relevant. If the person would love to learn about ABM, I would share our full funnel ABM course, or I would just refer to the relevant resources, right? So that's the key here, and we have a few more examples that Vlad can show as well.
Yeah, here just wanted to give you a very different example of how you can collect this insight. So remember, future pipeline. We know that there is engagement of vendor awareness, but we don't know what their core challenge is. We don't have any evidence that they have a need for our product. So one other way that you can collect these insights is inviting people to events, webinars, etc., which opens up a series of opportunities to learn more about that account, because you can add a question on a sign-up forum. You might have a poll during your webinar or your event. And like in this case, actually what you see is that Jeannie joined one of our webinars and she actually asked a question. And now I have learned already via this question something about the situation there. And I can now use this insight also not only to understand what's going on there, but to use that as an additional personalization. I can use that insight to personalize my outreach to her. So for example, she was asking about programmatic for awareness, and I reached out to her soon after the webinar saying, happy to dive deeper. And we dove deeper, and I started to learn that it's actually something that is being pushed by their CEO, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just wanted to share with you, there are different ways in which you can collect that insight and then not only learn whether they have a product need, but also use that insight to further personalize your conversation and drive a potential sales qualified opportunity like that.
Exactly. And that's the key. So to wrap up the entire layer right here, you need to match call to action with the collected insights. There is no silver bullet. I think one of the most missing points, and what's what makes B2B teams being frustrated with intent data is not having clear processes, right? You can buy the most expensive stack. You can buy the best technology in place, but if you don't know how to use these insights, no technology will create sales opportunities for you, right? So our goal today was to show you how to use intent data, right, to define these accounts and structure, segment them by ABM lists, right? The 3 lists that we were explaining. And also showing you a few examples how you can build in the follow-up messages, right? The follow-up activities. Of course, I mean, based on this, you can plan the retargeting ads, right? We didn't want to dive deeper into this because then it would be there would be multiple questions how to build that playbook. And if you can just, Vlad, post in the chat, we have entire course on this topic. So if you guys are interested on building ABM playbooks, you can go through the course. We have them actually a lot and step-by-step process that you can use to build them, right? Now, that being said, we got a lot of questions from the community. So if you guys want to ask us a question, feel free to post in the chat. We'll pick up that question and answer this. Meanwhile, let's start with the questions from the community. So the first one is from Peter. What is other experience with intent data from ABM platforms such as 6sense?
So all we could do, of course, is share our experience. So hopefully that was valuable to you. If anybody else has an experience that they want to share, would be really cool to hear. Drop it in the chat, please. But I think we have done our best to share our experience here as in much detail as possible. So I think we can move on to the next question, which was from Jennifer. Jennifer, I think you're online, right?
Yeah, Jennifer.
Yeah,
should be here.
So the question she asked, and please let me know if this is still relevant. Knowing that competitors can work off the same intent data points and go after the same hot accounts, how to differentiate approach to stand out? Hey, Jennifer. So a lot of what you have seen today was really about first-party intent data. That is to say, data that is unique to you, data that tells you about how the target accounts and target buyers are engaging with your brand, with your demand generation programs, etc., which is unique to you. And this is why we really like to focus on this data, right? If you had other, so like let's say third or second party intent data, to give you a concrete example, for example, you may have data from G2 and you know that somebody is checking you out and like listing of your product out, and maybe they're checking out also some other competitors. I think I kind of have two parts to the answer to that specific situation. Would be the first part would be a lot of the playbooks or a lot of the approaches that we shared today are going to already differentiate you, because unfortunately what we know from practice is that a lot of vendors are just going to take this information and send the people from that target account the exact same generic outreach that they are going to send to their cold list. So they're not really going to use these insights to personalize, right? So that's like the first part of the answer is you can take this a step further. You can use different touch points to engage with that person. You can personalize and match, like we said, you can match the call to action and the next step to the information that you have collected about that account. And I think there's other things that you can do. I would be very specifically interested to know like which specific competitors, and obviously having some insights about that and what your competitive advantage might be for compared to that competitor. But also one thing that I would do that I don't think a lot of companies do is connecting to the entire buying committee. So not just connecting to one person who might be a potential champion or decision maker, but actually trying to build relationships with multiple people in the buying committee. Having said all of that, again, we really prefer to use first-party intent data. That's why we were focusing on it today.
Yeah, because the third party doesn't mean it's not referring to your company, right? It's just a signal, but it's not a buying signal, right? It doesn't mean anything to you. And anyhow, you can still use the third party data to build a class. Again, I would come back to this point, right? You can use third party intent data to build cluster ICP, which would be fair enough. You have your firmographics, right? You have technographics criteria, and then you apply different buying signals. For example, hiring for specific roles, right? Or raised money. absolutely fine. But you need to keep in mind that these accounts are here, and first of all, you need to create vendor awareness, right? That's essential before doing anything else, right? So they should be moved into your demand gen program, where sales should be also ideally should be participating, right? And just to add one more thing to what Vlad said about differentiation, just bear to me, whenever you'll sit with the sales team and just discuss the collected insights and raise a question. Okay, with these insights, what should be the next most meaningful touch point with this account? How can we add value to this account and accelerate their buyer journey or influence their buyer journey? If you raise that question that way, you will never end up with the decisions, so let's enroll them in our infamous 21 email, cold LinkedIn, cold call, and cold email in sequence, right? No way. Or let's put them in our retargeting layer. Because here is the biggest difference between ABM motion and standard marketing programs. When you run a standard, or let's say you run a low ticket program, well, there is no problem to do a broad retargeting, right? You can, in most cases, you can afford it. You just pay attention to payback period, right, and cost of acquisition ratio. So in this case, if your deal size is really high, if it starts from 50K, right, you can't just, if you'll put them into generic retargeting, that would be a waste of time. The same with cold outbound, right? So if you want to do it, you need to do meaningful touch points. And if the only way to do it is just sitting with sales, having these discussions. And
I think there is definitely some value as well in, we're talking a lot about cluster. We didn't really speak about it because we covered this in another episode, but we have been, for example, today we have been discussing like what are the different use cases that we see in our current accounts, in the prospects that we are talking to, in the current clients, etc., etc. And what we see some typical patterns. And let's say we have a list of accounts or a cluster of accounts that are looking to introduce ABM. And then we have another one, which are maybe, let's say, product-led companies that are looking to introduce enterprise motions, or companies selling to technical audiences where the usual outreach and marketing messaging is being ignored, et cetera, et cetera. So different use cases. Now, if I can use the information, whether that's from intent data or otherwise, and I can know that, okay, these accounts, are interested in starting ABM. Well, I can start doing several things. I can start, like, whether it's via retargeting or even just like adding in, for example, to LinkedIn, thought leadership ads or other ads for awareness creation, where I'm actually starting to educate them by talking about these specific challenges. So, for example, if it's about introducing ABM, we will have next week, we are going to discuss with one of our clients live on the podcast about exactly how they have introduced the ABM, how they got the buy-in from their sales team, from their executive team, how they have actually got sales resources to engage with them within an ABM program. Well, I might also then decide to promote this live podcast interview to all of the accounts that belong to that cluster where I have this insight that they might be introducing ABM. So there are some kind of one-to-many activities that you can do also for marketing. But again, if you're talking about account-based marketing, this would be, you want to be relevant with your messaging, relevant with your content. So I would say, like, at least you should figure out what are those most common use cases and how you can actually classify your target accounts accordingly.
And we had actually, I can't scroll for a certain reason. So
what do you like?
We have other questions from the community. Yeah, you see.
Yeah.
So Notion is tricky.
Today,
yeah, we have a lot of really good questions from guys like common pitfalls to avoid an ABM, or what if the buyers are not active on social media. So these are the questions that not related to today's episode, but we have already covered them. So if you guys, guys who asked these questions when signing up for the episode, if you are here, Vlad dropped a link, so we are referring to the relevant resources where we have already answered these questions. And that being said, I think we have covered everything. Let us know with one emoji, how did you like that episode? Feel free to post fire, thumbs up, thumbs down if you didn't like it, whatever. We are not sensitive to feedback. So please share with us a very quick feedback. How did you like it?
Thank you, Jennifer. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Jennifer. And yeah, while some of you type in, quick announcement, next Thursday, as Vlad said, we are going to invite our client with whom we did a pilot program for 2 months and generated fantastic results. Just don't want to teaser you, so make sure to sign up and show up next week, because you can ask questions your peers. That would be VP of Marketing and ABM leads, so feel free to sign up, ask your questions beforehand, come up and engage with them. I think that would be super valuable for everybody. Thanks a lot for the feedback, Jennifer, Deepak, Zelimir. Thanks a lot for being active and engaged, and see you in 1 week. Take care. Cheers.
Bye.